And many of us have experienced this shot where, for various reasons we'll go over, the club head actually hits the ground behind the ball. So I get this fat shot, it goes way shorter than normal, no power, it doesn't feel good, and it's no fun. And so what we're gonna talk about today is the one drill that I really like to use. We use this a lot on CogornoGolf.com as a starter point to learn how to hit ball first. So I've got weight forward, I got my shoulder towards the target, and I feel my right wrist bent backing up a bit longer. And if you don't have to think about that and it happens by just missing the balls, that's perfectly fine, but that's what we're looking for. Weight forward, shoulder forward, right wrist. Yeah, that's the best one yet. You guys hear me say all the time that you need video feedback. And the newest version of LiveView Golf is absolutely the best form of simultaneous video feedback. And not only is video the best way to give yourself feedback, but being able to see yourself simultaneously as you're doing a movement is the best form of video feedback. It's the best way I've seen to make changes in your swing and be able to correlate the differences between your feels and your reels. LiveView is super easy to set up and use. Simply set it up behind or in front of you. You connect it with your iPad or your phone. You put that right on the ground. I can literally see myself as I'm swinging. It is the best form of practice. I encourage you guys to check out the newest version of LiveView Golf. We'll put a link in the description down below with a coupon code. All right, guys, so let's talk about how to stop hitting behind the ball. Now, I've got my trusty 8-iron here, and we know when we're trying to hit an iron, right, the ball's on the ground. For me to get the ball up in the air and towards my target, I need that club head to travel downward into the ball to the point where the club hits the ball first, and then the ground just underneath and in front of the golf ball. Right, and so some of these visuals we'll put on the screen, you'll see how that club head needs to descent into the ball, right, on a certain arc height and a certain angle to the point where we hit ball first, ground second. So when you're hitting on grass, you're on the course, you can look at where the back of your divot starts, and you want that to start at or just past the ball. Now, unfortunately, and many of us have experienced this shot where, for various reasons we'll go over, the club head actually hits the ground behind the ball. So I get this fat shot, it goes way shorter than normal, no power, it doesn't feel good, and it's no fun. And so what we're gonna talk about today is the one drill that I really like to use. We use this a lot on CogornoGolf.com as a starter point to learn how to hit ball first. And really there's three things in terms of the motions that are gonna contribute the most to fat shots or hitting behind the ball. So the first thing I'm always looking at if someone tells me that I'm hitting behind the ball is weight. Weight shift, weight transfer. The simple version of this would be that the more weight I have to the right, really at any point in the swing, but in particular during the downswing, the higher odds that I hit behind the ball. If that's true, then that means that the more weight I have to the left during the downswing, the higher the odds that I hit ball first, ground second. Now, to make that easiest, I would suggest, I've got it my trusty 8-iron, like I said, I like to practice my 8-iron. At the setup position, I'd start 50-50 with my feet. If I was gonna lean anyway, I'd go 55 to 60 on my left. I wouldn't advise starting more on your right. If you start more on your right and you're able to shift really good, perfectly fine, but then you're probably not watching this video, right? You're probably hitting the fat shots. So I would say neutral to start, maybe 55. Again, I'm less concerned with where you go on the way back, so long as you come good on the way down, but let's say during the downswing, I want to be pushing down and forward into my left leg and pushing my weight forward. So by the time I'm at impact, I might have 70 to 80% of weight on my left foot. Now, if that's the case, when I go back early, if I go way to the right, again, I'm okay with that, as long as you go way back to the left. If you're able to do that, again, maybe not watching this video, so let's assume I want to stay fairly centered at the top, I don't even mind having a little more weight forward at the top, as long as your head doesn't go forward with it. But in particular, we want to make sure the weight goes forward. So as a simple checkpoint, you can start to look at the finish of your swing. If you're out playing golf and you don't look like these pictures on the screen, if you don't look like me at the end here, odds are your weight's too far back and you need to have it go more forward. Now, as you start to hit with this, I've got this little great wall that we use here. Now, this isn't the easiest drill to start with. but it's very effective. So as we're gonna finish talking about the weight transfer, I set up these 3 golf balls behind my golf ball, about a grip behind. Now I would say this is like a medium level to start with. I probably wouldn't go any closer. You could go a little farther away, but when you're practicing, if you're able to get the club head to miss these golf balls, which are high up in the air, that club head's gonna travel downward towards the ball. We get the descent part right. So as we're feeling weight shift, I've got these 3 golf balls and I've got 8 iron. What I'm gonna start here is 2 things. When I start down, I wanna push hard into my left foot, push my weight forward. You're gonna feel like I've got this wall here that I'm trying to push my body into, especially my belt buckle. And I'm pushing my body forward, and I wanna make sure that I finish like those pictures. Like, let's cross off some variables here. So normal setup, I got my golf balls in there. I'm just gonna do a 1/2 or 3/4 one, feeling the weight forward with everything on the left at my finish. And that would be point number 1 to eliminate hitting behind the ball. Now you might do this and still hit behind the ball, but at least I've eliminated one of the big variables. And I want you to finish how I finish, right? Almost no weight on my foot. I've got my foot rolled over. You can do that, you don't have to. My weight's forward, my body's forward and facing the target. The more I can get into that good finish position, if it's no more complicated than that, it's no more complicated than that. The more my body goes forward as I turn, the more my low point's forward. And you might start getting some sensations with the wrist angles that we'll talk about in order to miss these golf balls. Weight forward, good finish. Yeah, that's a nice crisp iron shot. Again, note the finish position. Weight fully forward, body fully forward. And I would start there, okay? And I would start to chip some little shots. You might hit this golf ball as you're working in. Good news, it's just a ball, it'll roll away, right? You can re-put those in. And so I'm gonna hit balls with just the weight forward, maybe 5 to 10 reps, and just start to work those pieces. Now, the second piece that I would look at would be the trail shoulder motion. And I would look at this to say, hey, the more forward and under I can get my shoulder, get my right shoulder to point towards the target, the more my low point moves forward. If my right shoulder stays too far back, or my right shoulder goes too far down and back especially, I'm gonna hit behind the ball. So I want the shoulder to work underneath my chin and forward. So I want weight forward, shoulder forward, weight forward, shoulder forward. And this would be piece number 2. Got my setup station in there. I'm gonna push my weight to the left, right shoulder forward. So by the time I get done, I wanna see this right shoulder pointing towards the target. Now notice I don't have this right shoulder super high. My right shoulder's still down, a little lower than my left, but it's forward towards the target. And the point of that is to move that low point forward. So the weight moving forward helps the club hit more forward instead of behind. The shoulder forward helps the club head hit more forward instead of behind. And right now, this little golf ball is taking care of the height, okay, the height of the club. Because I can have my low point forward and get the club head too far down towards the ground too early. Arc height, okay, so that takes care of that part. Weight forward, right shoulder towards the target. Weight forward, shoulder forward. And those are nice, crisp iron shots. So the same sort of thing, I'd work through that and use it as piece number 2. I want you to keep this as simple as possible. I'm giving you a little explanation so you understand it, but if you can just think weight forward and never hit it fat again, stop there. If you can think weight forward, shoulder under, never hit it fat, stop there. Understand anytime your shoulder stays back and or goes too far down too early, we're gonna hit back here, underneath. The last thing I would look at would be the wrist angles. Okay, you're probably gonna have a sense with this wall here, like the club head comes a little bit up a little sooner than normal with a little bit of hinge. That's not necessarily the point of this. It's okay that it's in with the drill, but you might feel the club head come up a little bit. But what you're really gonna notice when you work down, like the images we have on the screen, how you're able to retain some of these wrist angles a bit longer to the point where that club head stays over the golf balls, and the full release is really happening at about 45 past impact. You'll see some of these Adam Scotts where it's beautiful wrist angles, release them here. Now by wrist angles, I mean that right wrist is staying bent back. So my knuckles towards my forearm, a bit more, a bit longer. And also I feel the thumb, a little bit of vertical hinge a bit more and longer if you're someone who hits behind the ball. So it's kind of knuckles back to my forearm, thumb up towards my shoulder. Knuckles back to my forearm, thumb up towards my shoulder. So I'm feeling that right wrist back and up a little bit longer and releasing that out here. You can overdo that, but let's get to that point, right? If we're hitting behind the ball, we've got a bit to go there. So I've got weight forward. I got my shoulder towards the target, and I feel my right wrist bent back and up a bit longer. And if you don't have to think about that and it happens by just missing the balls, that's perfectly fine, but that's what we're looking for. Weight forward, shoulder forward, right wrist. Yeah, that's the best one. Yeah, I felt like that right wrist was bent back a little more, a little longer. Now, in reality, of course, that right wrist is throwing, right? That right wrist is gradually bent back less and less. You can see by impact it's still bent, but then it's thrown by here. But because you likely throw too early, you're gonna feel like it's bent back longer, okay? Weight forward, right shoulder forward, right wrist bent back and up. And if you don't like right wrist feels, you can feel the same with the left. So if I bent my right knuckles back, my left knuckles away from my forearm and thumb up towards my shoulder. Bent back and up. Back this way and up towards my shoulder. Back and up. Okay, one more. Weight forward, right shoulder towards the target, wrist angles. Never hit behind the ball. Weight forward, right shoulder, wrist angles. And those are about as crisp as I can hit them. Now, obviously, I'm not looking at your golf swing, right? So there's a little bit of an inherent guess as to what's going on, but I would bet that those three things would cover 80 to 90% of people who hit behind the ball. And so I would start with those first. If you still struggle with fat shots, I would join CogornoGolf.com or get coaching somewhere. I would, CogornoGolf.com, you can send in your video so we can see, hey, okay, you're hitting fat shots because of this, and give you drills to fix those. If you want to check CogornoGolf.com, we'll put that on the screen. We'll also put a similar card for a similar style video. Thank you guys for watching.